So I wanted to talk about the mystic view today, and perhaps I call it the value of the mystic view. Our ordinary view is myself, my family, my tribe, safety, security, getting love for myself, getting right in my relationships. And this is really important. I think that sometimes Eastern traditions can bypass that stuff and go right for the good, juicy, impersonal, vast, universal realizations. But in our work we don't do that. We do focus on the personal view and understanding the personal view and developing the personal view. But we also want to titrate in the mystic view of reality. And if the personal view is a form of protection, a form of keeping the individual safe, the mystic view is a view from the perspective of liberation of the individual self. The mystic view is where we take the mask off. The mystic view is the view from innocence. The mystic view is what happens, and probably it's happened to you many times and you haven't thought much of it, or you have perhaps, but the mystic view is when the veils kind of drop and you see things really freshly. You see things with a brightness and a beauty and an aliveness that normally isn't there, because what's there instead is our thoughts about things, our attempts to kind of orientate ourselves and get ourselves in right position to life. So the mystic view doesn't know anything. It doesn't have prior knowledge in it the way that the individual view has. That's why I call it innocent. We could call it naked, again, free of the mask. And the mask, incidentally, is the self that we developed over time. It's the feeling of our self. It's the feeling of kind of who I am in the world. And I think the mask is important. I don't denigrate the mask in any way. But like I said, we want to titrate, put little bits by little bits of the mystic view in, so that we can start to see things from an open perspective, from a perspective of not protecting. So the first thing that's going to happen as I'm talking about this is that's vulnerable. How am I going to live if I'm not in some form of kind of taking care of things, protecting myself, making sure everything's okay, gauging, watching, determining, gauging other people, being concerned about my future livelihood. Sometimes we feel like, yeah, I've had these mystic experiences or these mystic moments, but if I lived from them, I wouldn't know what to do. I wouldn't know how to be. I'd do nothing. I'd take off all my clothes and I'd go run in the forest. That can happen. But it doesn't usually happen for that long, you know. Usually come back and start taking care of things again. But the mystic view is the view of spirit. The mystic view is a non-dual view, meaning a view in which there is not ourselves and the rest of reality. Ourselves, this little kind of contained unit that's moving from place to place, basically desperately trying to survive in a reality that wants to come in and crush, kill, or even from the inside sometimes finish us off. So it's kind of a dilemma. And it's okay to have that dilemma. I'm not trying to resolve the dilemma of the individual and the universal. But I want to recognize that dilemma. I want to recognize the dilemma that we're in. Because everything that's sitting here comes to an end. Everything that's sitting here, everything that surrounds us, this planet, the solar system, the sun, everything coming to an end. So we had this beautiful enlightenment that came along in the 1600s, and then came along the Cartesian view of reality, of kind of things interacting with things. And that very powerful view came to dominate the way we experience life. I'm a thing, you're a thing, get off my thing, give me more of your thing, I want less of this thing. It's all things. But when we pull off the mask for a moment, when we come on retreat, or we're sitting with a tree, or swimming in the river, the whole mask, the whole veil through which we view reality, through which we sense that I'm a thing and you're a thing and it's all things, can start to shimmer a little bit. You might want to just look around a little bit at this place we're in. Do you see things? What if you don't name anything? Do you still see things? So in the mystic view, the view from oneness, there are many ways, multitude of ways you can start to see things. But they're all views of oneness. You can see that everything is a manifestation of one life, one dynamism, one living presence that's always flowing forward. You can see that at the core of everything is this profound, powerful potential, like a luminous pearl or a luminous diamond at the center of everything, from which, although it is unmanifest, all the manifestation flows. You can see that everything is truth. Everything, I want to say, has a truth to it, but it's deeper than that, that everything is truth. even things that are twisted and seemingly confused are truth. We can't see that from the individual perspective. Because from our individual standpoint, we have a limited view. We're not seeing from the perspective of someone who might see a solar system or a galaxy coming into being and moving and changing and shifting and then going out of being. We're seeing from a body-based survival instinct organism. And again, nothing wrong with that, but we're titrating in the mystic view. Can you guys hear me over there? Another way you might see things is you might see the total field of perception, vision, hearing. So I'm saying you might see, but you might experience the total field of perception as a livingness, as vibrant with life. You can also sense that within all that vibrant life and color and movement, there's total emptiness. There's total, complete silence, stillness. And that it is deathless. And remember, we're talking about a non-dual view here, where the mystic view is not of being a separate individual, but of being a deathless reality. So we have words like spirit for that. You might see that there is an order to everything, and that within that order there is growth and expansion, there's death and decay, there's blockage, there's flow, there's brilliance and wisdom and intelligence. And there's stubbornness and stupidity and hardness and hatred and fear. And it's all of one fabric. And the force that holds that fabric together is the important view within the realization of the mystic view. you can come to see that there is a perfection. That with everything that seems so contradictory and difficult, things that we grieve, things that we long for, things that we have and that we love, things that we already appreciate, with all the contradictions, there is a perfection. It's not always good news for this guy, or the one sitting in your skin. It's not always good news. And it definitely doesn't always look the way that this guy thinks it should look. I was in these caves in New Zealand. Maybe some of you have been in the caves where you go underground and you go rafting through the underground caves, or actually tubing through the underground caves. And they give you headlamps, but at a certain point they have everybody turn off their headlamps, and then they've taught you how to lay back into each other's legs onto each other's tubes, and all the headlights go off, and the whole ceiling is illuminated by these glowworms, these kind of aquamarine colored glowworms, right? And there's enough luminosity there to make out the shape of the cave, especially as your eyes adjust, right? So when I talk about titrating grain by grain the mystic view into your reality, I'm not saying necessarily, unless you want to, you don't have to become a mystic poet and rip off all your clothes and go screaming through the plaza, sprouting love songs to God. And like I said, if you want to do that, that's fine. But it's more about letting each one of those points of light that touches you on retreat, or when you see a leaf falling from a tree as you're on your way to work, or when you just really appreciate a moment that a mother and a child are having and they're interacting, and you see that that mother and that child are really in a moment of love, and really in a moment of attunement and communication, for instance. And there's just a moment there, and a little droplet of appreciation comes into your soul. Titrating in the mystic view. And then when we come and we stop and we slow down and we meditate, or we be quiet in nature, or we go on a walk by ourselves, what you can start to notice in that quietness, in that relaxing of our individual view, of our individual survival strategies, is you can start to notice all those points of luminosity that are within you. So I'm looking around at this beautiful place a lot as I'm talking here, and I'm breathing in the richness of this place, and I'm breathing in the green, and I could feel the green. I could feel this kind of like rich, ripe greenness right here at my solar plexus. It feels fresh. It's almost like I could taste it here at my solar plexus. It's like piney. And what it feels like to me is like there's a green light moving out from me, and in a harmony and a sympathy with all the colors of green and all the shades of light that are here now. And if I don't give these tall, shapely, differentiated, squiggly things names, or the stuff that's on the outside of them that's kind of rough and has some different growth on it, and has lines, and has circles. If I don't give all that name right now, and I let it in past the filter of my mind, my naming mind, my thinking mind, there's a communion here. Now, easier usually with nature. But just as a possibility, once in a while, we just might see somebody and see them without the lens of our judgment, of our naming, of our boxing, and really apprehend in that moment what we're seeing. Hard to do with other people, right? Easier to do with trees. Because with other people it requires us to be vulnerable, it requires us to be a bit naked. But when we do it with another person, when it happens with another person, whether we know them or we've never met them before, it's like the synergy of two stars. A life greater than the individual life comes to be. And there may be a kind of a shaking or a readjusting of the individual life. But something happens that we have a name for, and we usually call that love. And it's not necessarily like romantic love. It's more of an appreciative love, more of a recognition. You are what I am, trying to sort this in the way that you do it. Just like I try to sort it in the way that I do it. And we don't always know. In fact, maybe we never know. But I see you and appreciate you trying to sort this in the way you're trying to sort it. And I know it's hard sometimes. And I know it's glorious sometimes. And I appreciate you. And maybe even good luck.